Hello and welcome to another edition of Around the Kitchen Table with Tullahoma's Entrepreneurs. I'm Lane Curley, the longtime part-time mayor of Tullahoma. As you may know, every year I introduce a different community initiative, things like Get Fit Tullahoma or Go Green Tullahoma or the Tourism Council. Well, this year I decided to do something a little bit different. This year I want to focus on entrepreneurs and entrepreneurism in our community. I want Tullahoma to be more of an entrepreneurial community. So, what's an entrepreneur? Entrepreneurs are the makers, the doers, the hustlers, the risk takers, and the dreamers. They often bring a vibrancy to a community. They turn ideas into reality, and they create jobs. These are the founders who invest their own blood, sweat, and often tears. Oftentimes, their ideas start around a kitchen table, just like this one. We have hundreds of successful entrepreneurs in Tullahoma. We need to welcome, encourage, and celebrate our entrepreneurs. It's important that we support our local entrepreneurs. A goal of mine is to make Tullahoma Tennessee's rural entrepreneurial capital and the city of opportunity and innovation. So while we are around a kitchen table, believe it or not, that's where many business ideas are created and nurtured. Some ideas then move to the garage, then perhaps a small office or storefront, then the business is off and running. So each week I want to introduce you to a different Tullahoma entrepreneur, someone who has put his or own money at risk and created jobs. So if you enjoy great barbecue, you'll recognize our guest immediately. Entrepreneur Kendall Lane operated Route 55 barbecue place on Tullahoma for 6 years on Wilson Avenue. He then partnered with two other individuals and started the very popular Whiskey Trail Barbecue and Steakhouse next door to his barbecue restaurant on Wilson Avenue. He is an example of an entrepreneur that took advantage of opportunities. I'm excited to hear more from Kendall as an entrepreneur, how he got in the restaurant business, and how he does so well in this competitive market. So, welcome, Kendall.
Thank you, Lane.
Glad you're here. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, childhood.
Well, I grew up in this community. I grew up on the other side of Normandy, like 15 minutes from here.
Sure.
And so I spent my whole life, it's been here in Manchester and Tullahoma. My parents, because of where we lived, we frequently came to Tullahoma and frequently Manchester because of where we lived. Yeah. Same distance for both of us. So I've been in Tullahoma I was born in Tullahoma, as a matter of fact. I was born in Harton.
Yeah.
So I've been here all my life.
Yeah. So tell us why the restaurant business and how you got started in the restaurant business. And were you an entrepreneur prior to the Route 55 barbecue?
Well, prior to my current profession, yeah. I've always been involved in retail. My first job was at Walmart. That's where I actually learned a lot of my foundation was at Walmart. Back when Sam Walton was still alive. So it was a wonderful place to work then. It was actually a desirable place to be, and they taught a lot of their employees good values. And then I moved from there to Advanced Auto Parts and management there. So I've always been somewhat involved in retail. Yeah. The restaurant portion of it is kind of a unique thing. Yeah. A good friend of mine actually did that prior, he's a cowboy. He's a desperado. I love him with all my heart. He's a brother. Yeah. But he after some period of time he decided he was ready to move on to something else, and I had helped him several times and he enjoyed it. Yeah. And so that's actually what got my feet wet with barbecue and thinking about doing a restaurant. So that's how that part of it began. Yeah.
So what your decision to open up the Route 55 barbecue in Tullahoma? Tell us. I mean, that's a big step to going from maybe a corporate environment to all of a sudden being on your own. So how did you make that decision?
Well, it was just an opportunity, more or less. I enjoyed doing that work. I enjoy people. I've always been a people person. I've never had issues with people, especially as I get older. Seem like I get more accustomed to it. When I was younger, I was a little more introverted, which is funny because over time, it just developed, I guess, where I enjoyed people more. So it kind of seemed hand in hand. People like to eat. And,
yes, we do.
Yeah, and it's people genuinely, when they come in to eat, they want to be happy. They're there to eat. All you have to do is help them be happy. Right. So that's
yeah. So you won't tell me your secret sauce, but
no.
how did was there some testing that went on, or did you go right to your recipe?
Well, it was kind of another happenstance thing. My initial testing went well. I got extremely lucky the first go around. Everything just seemed to fall in place. So it's almost as if it was meant to be that way. It was just it wasn't work to me. It was. Now what came after became work. A lot of people think they want to become restaurant owners. There's a number of, you've been in restaurant business in your career, so you certainly understand the workload. Yes, extremely tough. And a lot of people go in, and that's one thing that we're talking about here in a few minutes, I'm sure, was when people start a restaurant, they just think they want to start a restaurant. There's not a lot of planning before and after, and they also usually don't realize exactly how much work there is. There's a tremendous amount of work and dedication you have to it. And barbecue being one of those primary things, if you do any kind of volume whatsoever, it's a tremendous amount of work, probably more than most other restaurants.
Sure.
Just because of the nature of the product.
Yeah. Right.
Because you're producing the entire product right there. There's no buying components. There's no, you're physically producing all your meat, all your product. Where a lot of other restaurants buy components or frozen products and reheat or cook or whatever they're doing. Most of them do it that way. So it's a unique business in itself.
Yeah. A lot of pressure too with that. Yeah.
Extremely.
Yeah.
You have to maintain schedules. There's no off time.
Sure.
You've got to keep production running because it's I don't feel like cooking today. If you don't cook today, there's no tomorrow.
Right.
So it's all related that way.
Yeah. So I was by Whiskey Trail the other day and took some video. So let's let Randy's going to cue that video I took, and I want you to watch the monitor, Kendall, and just tell people what we're watching. So remind people where you are.
Oh, we're on at 413 Wilson Avenue, the former Davy Crockett's building that we've gone through and revamped and cleaned up and done a lot of work to. We spent about 5 months preparing this for today.
And of course, some people remember that was the original Shoney's in Tullahoma too.
Exactly right. Before it was added on to by Mr. Danner.
Right. You've got a stage outside.
We've got the porch there, the deck where people can eat outside with handicap accessible tables. We are handicap accessible naturally by everything we have. This is our main dining area. Interesting thing about what we're fixing to pan to here is that is actually a tasting bar, I think from George Dickel from senior years ago. So we repurposed and made it fresh and something of a neat feature for our building.
The staff is always very friendly there. I know that to some people that comes naturally, but I'm sure there's some training in that as well.
And there is, and that's actually something that we're fairly insistent with. It's not hard to be nice to people, and it's not hard to it's. Some people do find it a little bit difficult, but they don't belong with us if that's the case. It's just the way we expect things to be.
You've got a nice big bar there and a stage.
Our bar area, lounge area. It's also we have live music on Friday and Saturday nights. So almost every Friday and Saturday night. Karaoke on the first Friday and the third Friday of the month as well. That people seem to find very, very popular. We do feature a lot of our featured drinks on our feature menu are from the local distilleries. That's actually what this is catering toward. This is not a one distiller show. We're not featuring one particular distillery. We also have a map in the bar there of the Whiskey Trail, which is what this is designed toward. Like I said, the featured drinks are all local distillers like H. Clark or Branch Water. Those type of distilleries, Pritchard's, we have a lot of their stuff in there. We have Jack Daniel's, George Dickel, of course, because they are a part of Tullahoma. Yeah. You know, they forever will be, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, that's really what we're designed toward. That's our niche. Also, in Tullahoma was another missing niche. There was no longer a good steakhouse. That was one of the things that kind of fell into place with this too. Our barbecue was natural. It seemed like people liked it. We seemed to be pretty popular with that, and we felt comfortable with that. The steaks adds another challenge to things. People are very picky with steaks, but there's nowhere in the immediate area to go get a high quality steak. There's plenty of places to get an average steak or something like that. So that was where the decision for the steakhouse portion to come in.
Sure. So how did you make the decision that there was a market for Whiskey Trail Barbecue and Steakhouse? I mean, how did you make that determination? That's a big step.
It is, and that's and actually from years ago, and when I took over the other business and started running it, the Route 55, I actually wanted a little different design. That's just, it didn't fit where I was at and what I was doing at the time. My branding, I wanted it to be somewhat different. This is actually in line with where I wanted to go. That's why everything just fell into place with this, because the building fit, the location fit, the niche for the area fit. So it's much more than, hey, I just want to start a restaurant. You got to check all the boxes to make sure that that things are going to work properly. A good, comfortable place that people have a lot of memories with already. The bear in the front, you have no idea how many times that people tell me I love the bear. I missed seeing the bear. I want to take the bear home. So that's the whole thing just fit. And then the location, of course, between George Dickel, Jack Daniel's, all the locals that are around us. Like I said, the Branch Water Distillery, the Pritchard's, the Leaper's Fork. We're all right in the middle of Short Mountain of an epicenter of distilleries. So it was only natural for this to bring my idea from years ago back out. Right. Because it's something I actually wanted to do before. And it's funny, the Bootlegger Stage, I don't know if you notice the sign for the stage now is Bootlegger Stage. Well, that was actually where I wanted to go with this, was like Bootlegger's Barbecue. But this, the more we went with it, the more it was very apparent what this should be. So,
and you found some co-owners as well that help in I assume the day-to-day operation.
Absolutely do.
And that's important. So, how do you think your background, whether it be in Walmart or in the auto parts, how has that served to help you now?
It tremendously. Walmart is where I got my foundation of understanding sales and how to market items, because that's the ultimate importance of all this. Is it doesn't matter how good something is if you can't market it properly, or you the cost and sales prices of things. If you don't understand that portion of it, it makes it really difficult. Because ultimately you have to be able to make a few dollars for it to be worth doing.
Absolutely.
And if and that's also one portion of what I've always done too. Is if you look at my prices now, and I frequently get beat up on that, believe it or not, from customers. They say your prices are too cheap. Well, I would rather provide the best product I can give for the amount of money that I can afford to make a little bit with. I'm not trying to get rich with this. There's too many places in the world that have a mentality of I'm taking every dollar you have. I don't want that. I want you to come back every week and come sit and talk to me. If you notice, I'll frequently come around the restaurant and talk to people. I enjoy the interaction, and it's worth my while doing. It's mentally challenging sometimes, of course, but it's good.
Yeah. So, Kendall, you just mentioned challenges. What challenges do you face as an operator owner of a probably the biggest restaurant in Tullahoma?
Staffing is always, just like anywhere in today's time, is a challenge. Probably is one of the bigger challenges is to make sure we get those people you were just talking about that are happy and have a caregiver's heart that want to help people and take care of them and take pride in their work. That's it's somewhat challenging at today's time.
Sure.
And especially in the market we have right now, which is good, but also there's a lot of jobs available, so it's also spreading the employee base a little thin.
Sure. Yeah.
That's one of the bigger challenges, I'd say. The other small challenge, I don't say it's small, it's another challenge, but is also in today's time is a right now type belief system. And fast food is kind of catered to this a little bit, where people still expect when you come into a sit-down restaurant that sometimes things happen immediately. And especially when you're busy, sometimes you have a kitchen it is a funnel. There's only so much output you can put out of the kitchen at one time. So keeping people to understanding, well, this is not a chain fast food restaurant that puts out a low quality item. This is a restaurant that's trying to give you a good quality item and wants you to interact with your family, your friends, us. I want to be an experience, not I want my food to fall out of the sky and land on my plate and my table before the server walks away. This was not what this place is intended to be. It's more of I want it to be an experience, somewhere you can enjoy and be part of your life.
Sure.
Not I'm ready to run in, run out.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about your work?
Probably, actually, once again, it's the challenge also brings in the good too. There's a lot of good people in this area, and they usually look for you when they come in, and it's always nice to hear somebody hollering for your name across the restaurant and smiling and laughing, and because I cut up a lot and people do the same, back. And I enjoy that. Yeah. So the interaction with people is also part of the bonus.
Right.
I've gotten to know a lot of people. I knew a lot of people already.
Sure.
Now, it expanded my personal contact base even more. Now I've got 3 counties of contact base. So it seems like it's nice. Yeah. That part's nice. I enjoy that.
The location where you are, I don't think people realize that Jack Daniel's has 400,000 visitors a year, and George Dickel has their share as well. But a good percentage of that Jack Daniel business comes right down Wilson Avenue,
correct,
right in front of your restaurant.
So, they sure do.
Yeah.
And it's only, I think, Jack Daniel's is like 12 miles away. I think.
Sure.
So it's relatively close. And once again, that's why all those things just fell into place, because it was just you try to check the boxes. What fits, what will work here. Because some of those things had been in place, that the plan is separated and falls apart. So those things are important.
Sure.
The location. People say location. Well, location is important when you're trying to get people to come by, because storefronts are important. People don't always plan what they're doing. Sometimes they drive by somewhere and say, "Oh, I think I'll stop there." Well, you do have to have traffic ultimately to have a good flowing business as well. Yeah, it's important.
Yep. So, so many people now want to be located on North Jackson Street, and so I think you've become a destination yourself, of course, and that was such a strategic move on your part to take that building to make it into Whiskey Trail. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, what does hustle mean to you?
Well, hustle. You've met my wife a few times.
I have.
That she is the epitome of hustle.
Yeah.
Hustle is the willingness to continue to work and continue to go when other people quit. There is no stop.
Yeah.
That's also one of the keys to this. You have to be compulsive, and hustle and compulsiveness go hand in hand. So if you think that, hey, I think I'll take a few days off, There are no days off.
Right.
There's even on days that I don't go to the restaurant, I'll still do things that should help the restaurant and to help the restaurant.
Right.
Because it's that kind of dedication, that kind of hustle that it takes to be successful.
I think a lot of times people that are thinking about starting the business, they don't really fully appreciate that hustle is a key ingredient to that. As you pointed out, you can't just decide that, well, I'm not going to take care of this customer today. You've always got to take care of the customers. If a staff person calls in, well, you've got to immediately make some kind of arrangement. So you deal with that kind of thing every day, every hour perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And something we've always found important too is to work alongside of our employees when doing things. And I'm fairly sure that you'll ask any of our employees.
Yeah, sure.
And what they think of us, and that'll be the first thing they say, is they're always here helping us. They're working with us. They're not afraid to clean toilets if they have to.
Sure.
That's what we do. I don't believe in doing anything or asking an employee to do something I'm not willing to do twice as good.
Sure.
Or twice as hard. That's part of that hustle once again. But it's not fair for me to stand over somebody and point down at them and say, hey, you need to do it this way. No, I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it together.
Right.
It's just something that my wife works exactly the same way as I do. And I think that's well, you always see the drawings where you have a leader and you have a dictator, I guess, where you'd have a leader that actually is pulling the load with the other workers, and then you have somebody that's in charge that's sitting on top of the load, asking the workers to pull the load. Well, just people don't pull it very hard that way.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to ask them to do that.
One thing, Kendall, we've not talked about is, and it used to be this way, and I suspect it still is in the restaurant business, you have to order as much as a week ahead of time. And so you're having to anticipate what this perishable food what's going to be bought over the next week. That's a tough thing in and of itself.
It can be, yes.
After so many months and years, you maybe have a handle on that, but at least initially, there's some guesswork there probably.
Well, it is to a point. Now, we had a pretty good idea of what we were going to do in the beginning, how we were going to do it. And of course, you set inventory systems up. My wife is very, very good at this too. She takes care of all the ordering, so she makes few mistakes, and she'll be the first one to beat herself up if she does make one. And that's rare. Right. She's very, very good. Yeah. But it's you start building a track record. You start looking at inventory numbers. You start looking at sales. There's a whole formula of things you look at to try to estimate what you're going to need for the first part of the week. We typically get 2 orders a week. So we're fortunate there. The tricky part is steaks and things like that. These are hand cut steaks, so we have to order those twice a week. But you're trying to, that is a trickier one because you have to try to anticipate what you're going to do over the weekend. Is this weekend a holiday weekend, or is this going to be a rainy, cold weekend? So you really don't want to keep things like that sitting around, obviously. Sure. Because those are expensive items.
But every retailer has to pre-order things. The difference in a restaurant is it's perishable.
It's perishable.
Yeah. Right. And you have a slow weekend and you've got to move some things pretty quick. Yeah.
And that's where sometimes specials come into play. Yeah. You try to create a little bit of a hustle or a little more bustle about what you're doing, or some excitement, or create some things that maybe people will go from these regular items to these items to try to use up some stock or something sometimes where you make a good value on something. Yeah.
So what's a typical day like for you?
Well, my day's complicated. My day I usually wake up at about 4:30 in the morning. I work at the base, so my day job starts at 5:30. Typically, I get off around 1:30 to 2 there, and then come to the restaurant, change clothes, and then start preparing for the evening. Yeah. Now, in the beginning, when it was so busy, I was there every day. We're kind of at the point now to where we've got a couple of managers we have, and that do a little gap fill for us, and so we don't have to be quite as there 24 hours a day like we were. There for a while, I was tired, very tired. It was very long days.
So what do you think are the most important attributes? Someone that's watching now, and they're considering making that step from a corporate environment to starting a business. What do you consider to be some of the most important attributes that an entrepreneur should have?
Probably one of the biggest things is I'd say that compulsiveness. Mm-hmm. If you see a problem or see something in development, don't step over it. You act on that problem then, or figure out a cure or a solution or a different route for that. But that compulsiveness is always important, because it's people and entrepreneurs don't have anybody backing them up. And basically, if you let down whatever that you see as a problem, mm-hmm. or that you say, well, I don't feel like doing that today, will always come back to get you. It will always cost you money. Most of the time, especially in restaurant businesses, you don't have the luxury of that. Mm-hmm. The profit margins aren't extreme, so if you do things like that, you lose money automatically. You're not going to last long at it.
Sure.
So laziness is not an attribute you'll see with anybody that's successful with a restaurant business in particular, but pretty much any entrepreneur.
Sure.
You see that they for the shovel needs to be picked up, they pick it up. Yeah. It's just that's life as owning your own business or being an entrepreneur on your own.
Yeah, good advice. So speaking of advice, if you were counseling somebody, and what advice would you offer to an entrepreneur?
Planning. Anything you do, there's always got to be a plan. There's the 5 minutes, 5 hours. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before or not, but 5 days, 5 weeks. There's always a benchmark that you set yourself. Well, you need to understand what things are going to look like in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's pretty immediate.
Yeah.
You need to see what things are going to look like in 5 hours. 5 days can look considerably different. But then that's for short-term planning. But mm-hmm. you start getting into 5 months. Well, where do you expect to be in 5 months? What's going to be different about today is in 5 months, or 6 months. You know, you can use a 6. If you want to use 6s, you mm-hmm. can. But that's always an important thing, is planning. Always plan your steps out. Know where you're going. Don't be aimless. Once again, you don't have the luxury. That's how big corporations are successful. They have a lot of people that plan. Well, in your shoes, you are that.
Sure.
That planning committee.
Yeah.
That you need to make sure all the boxes are checked.
Yeah.
So that's probably my biggest advice to anybody who wants to do this: is plan, know where you're going in the future, and how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
And have realistic expectations.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice, Kendall. I appreciate very much you taking the time to visit with us today around the kitchen table. And I have a feeling people that are watching maybe have been inspired, as I have been, with your story and your work ethic and the challenges of competing in a competitive market like Tullahoma from the restaurant business. So again, thanks for your time today, and appreciate everybody watching, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.